Homelessness is a challenge that seems to defy simple solutions. For veterans here in the Valley, however, there is Manna House, the Marine, Army, Navy, Air Force House, which is a facility where veterans experiencing homelessness can find relief and fellowship, and in many cases, a new path forward toward a better life. Hello, I'm here with Cole Hickman from Manna House, Marine, Army, Navy, Air Force House, which is a program of Catholic Charities of Arizona. Thank you very much for joining us, Cole.
Happy to be here.
So, what is Manna House? I said the title, but what is this? What is this place?
So Manna House is this really amazing program that actually started as a group of veterans experiencing homelessness down at one of the shelters in Central Phoenix, and they were there to support one another. And it grew from there into a program that is now a transitional housing program. So we provide services as part of a grant per diem contract with the VA to give veterans experiencing homelessness a transitional housing environment where they can work on getting back on their feet and back into their own home. And so we help them with case management. We provide food, shelter, try and provide a sober living environment so people in recovery can focus on ending their homelessness, and connect them to services that can address their other needs, whether it's mental health or job services or whatever it is, because our goal is getting them back into their own stable housing as soon as possible.
And is there a typical period of time that takes, or is it just really different depending on the individual?
It varies a lot. On average, it's about 60, 70 days, but it just depends on what the specific challenges are that veteran's navigating and that we need to help them get through. And so it could be that they come into our program and they're only there for a few weeks until they get into their housing, or it could be that it takes many more months for them to get their income arranged and identify housing that they can move into and connect to other services. So we try and make sure that we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. We want to focus on the needs of each individual veteran, but really focused on how do we successfully move them into housing.
And how many are there at any one time? Is there a certain number of beds? Is that really the limitation?
It is. We have 76 beds in our program. Wow. And for much of the pandemic, we weren't full, but over the last few months, we've really been almost completely full or nearly full the whole time. And I'm not sure if that's a result of any kind of eviction moratoriums ending or what, but there has been an increased demand for beds. And so we are running at full steam all the time right now.
And you talked about how it really started as a group of veterans in a shelter. That sounds like a pretty amazing story. Can you go into a little bit more about how Manna came to be?
Yeah, I could tell a little bit about it. So there were a group of veterans experiencing homelessness who wanted to look out for each other while they're staying on the street and keep watch over one another overnight. And it grew from that into an organization down by the Human Services campus where the CAST shelter is located. They created a program that had their own offices, and one of the board members for Catholic Charities, Terry Ehrman, was one of the founders of this program and really did a lot of advocacy to grow and build this organization up. And then it became a transitional housing program. And a couple of years ago it was absorbed into Catholic Charities as a program. And Catholic Charities is a much larger agency that has a lot of diverse services. So my sister's place, the domestic violence program, and we just opened up a shelter up in Bullhead City. And a lot of different advocacy programs and outreach programs serve veterans and other populations.
And how do veterans come into the program? How do you become aware of them, or how do they become aware of you, and how does the intake work?
So all veterans who enter our program come from the VA. The
Okay.
VA has an office called the Community Resource and Referral Center. And so any veteran in Maricopa County who's experiencing homelessness can go down to 1500 East Thomas Road and talk with someone about housing services, about what their needs are, and get connected to a variety of different programs that may include coming to a program like Manna House where they can be in a transitional housing program. And move from that into their own housing. Also get them connected to housing services that may be eligible for because of their service record. But they may get connected to other programs for substance abuse or mental health, or something where they can get a little bit of rental assistance just to move into the home of a family member or friend and not have to go through a program like ours. But all of our referrals come directly from the VA, and we actually have VA staff on site so that we really work closely with them to make sure that these veterans are able to take advantage of all the resources that they have earned access to because of their service.
And I was reading that it is a peer-to-peer support environment. Is that correct? Are there? I mean, it obviously started as veterans who experienced homelessness, and then were able to transition, and then they immediately wanted to help other veterans. So are there veterans on staff helping veterans in the facility?
Absolutely. We have a mixed staff, so some of our staff are people who've experienced homelessness or are in recovery from substance abuse, and so they use that peer experience. But some of our staff, like myself, are veterans, and so we can connect with the residents from that perspective and understand their experience navigating VA services and just some of the challenges of somebody who's served their country, maybe been in combat, and so it does help us maintain that environment where there's a common experience, a common identity. But we also want to make sure that we're transitioning people back into a civilian environment where you're not just living with other veterans, you're living in your own home. And so many of the veterans that we work with relate on a lot of different levels, and that's why having a staff that's a mix of former service members and people who haven't served but have other peer support experience is really valuable.
If it's possible to remove COVID from the equation, and it may not be possible to do that, but if it is, what's your overall assessment of the issues of homelessness among veterans in Arizona? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it staying the same? Are there enough resources? Difficulty accessing resources? Can you kind of give us what the view looks like from where you sit?
Sure. It's definitely challenging right now, and we have seen an uptick in demand, an uptick in the number of referrals coming from the VA and the number of people in our program. I'm not sure how that impacts the larger community, though we do still have a Veterans Outreach Center at the Human Services campus where MANA started as the Madison Street Veterans Association, that peer group. So we still have an outreach team that works with veterans who are still sleeping outside or in some of the shelter services down there. And we have seen a lot of people coming in. The VA is providing a lot of great resources, and that's been a change that really ramped up over the last decade or more in a nationwide effort to end chronic veterans homelessness. And that's part of why we have programs like Manor House and other housing resources that are available. Many of the veterans that we're working with are navigating the same challenges that other people experiencing homelessness are dealing with. So poverty, the rising cost of housing, challenges getting a place to rent based on eviction histories or maybe criminal justice issues that make it harder to find the place that they can rent. Navigating chronic health conditions, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and all those things can contribute to derailing someone's housing, whether it's because they get evicted or because they lose employment or because they find it difficult to find housing or support resources. And so the thing that's different about the veterans that we serve is that they have the VA, and there's a lot of resources available through the VA.
I hope that there are some amazing success stories.
Yes.
That kind of buoy you and the other staff there. Can you share maybe one that sticks out in your memory? Or?
Absolutely. There's a gentleman who we worked with, and he had gone from being a successful businessman and to having kind of a mental health crisis, and a lot of his support structure fell apart, and he ended up experiencing homelessness, living on the street, and he got connected to the VA and then connected to Manor House and was able to put the pieces back together to move back into his own housing. And then he entered a program that's a partnership with AARP called the CSEP program, where you can actually work with a program part-time and provide your experience, your life experience, both as a peer support person, but also other skills that you may bring. And as a veteran, he came and joined our Veterans Outreach Center at the Human Services campus. And so he was able to go from being somebody who was successful, ended up in homelessness, got back on the street through Manor House, and then joined our team to reach back and help other veterans who were in the same place that he was and help them get back on their feet, whether it was getting connected to the VA, coming to Manor House and leaving for housing on their own, or accessing other services. It just depends on what their individual needs are. But that's one of the powerful things about that Veterans Outreach Center, is that those are all veterans. The staff and those CSEP participants, and they're bringing their experience navigating the system, understanding the frustration of other veterans, but giving them hope that I was able to make it through this. Your situation may not be the same, but I'm here to work with you through it. Because that's what, as veterans, that we always had, is that you're never alone. That other veterans who served, whether they know you or not, they're there to reach out their hand and support you. And so that's what we continue to maintain in our program, both where it was born, but also in what we're doing as a larger facility. Something that we've been working on a lot lately is really trying to help veterans who are moving into housing be more prepared for that. Before I worked at Manor House, I worked at the Human Services campus, and that's where the CASH shelter is, but also that Veterans Outreach Center. And so I saw a lot of people coming in just at the beginning of their homelessness, and of accessing services, whether it was housing, shelter, getting connected to the VA medical care, whatever it was. And I would see people who had gotten assistance and gotten into housing, and then things fell apart and they came back. And one of the key challenges was that when people experiencing homelessness move into housing, they may be coming with just a couple bags. They may move into an apartment and not have anything in their kitchen, any furnishings. And many people would move into their housing, but they would have nothing to actually live there and make it a home. And they would end up going back to the shelters and the soup kitchens and the places where they were able to get meals and other support, because they didn't have that in their new home. And they would see their old friend that they used to drink with. They would see maybe their old drug dealer. They would see people who they used to get into trouble with. They would see a friend who would say, hey, what are you doing? You know, I'm sleeping on the street. And they say, oh, well, why don't you come back, stay with my place? Because they want to do the compassionate right thing and look out for other people. And that may be a violation of their rental agreement. And so different combinations of things would happen where it would jeopardize their housing and cause them to lose it and end up back in homelessness. So our goal is that when people move into housing from Manor House, we really set them up with all the supplies that they need in order to make that a home, so that they can get back to something kind of a semblance of normalcy. Because we're not ending someone's poverty, we're not ending their substance abuse or their mental health. There's a lot of things that it takes to continue to work on those things. But we can set someone up for success by giving them bedding when they move into a place. When they leave our program, they can take their mattress with them, they can take all the bedding and the towels and the clothing, everything that we give them, they can take all that with them. So that when they move into a place, they can furnish that home. We've gotten donations of coffee pots, of George Foreman grills, of cleaning supplies, things just to help someone really make their home a place that they can be independent in and that they can stay in. And so donations of pots and pans and towels and laundry baskets and bedding, things that everyday items that people need in order to use their home. We want to set them up for success by giving them those things. Because also, if they go into housing and they spend their money to furnish all those things, they may not have money left over for first month's rent. So this is really about fighting poverty, but it's also about making sure that when someone moves into housing, we want that to be the last time they're moving into housing from homelessness.
What is the best way for someone watching or listening to support this effort? Is it to go to your website?
The best thing is, so you can either call Manor House and reach out to us. Also going to our website and just seeing the listing of the wish list items that we have of the things that would really support our program. Things that we definitely need if anybody wants to drop off, bedding, towels, we always need those things. There are a lot of toiletry items that we give out regularly to the residents in our program. Plates, bowls, cups, because everything I just mentioned, when they leave our program, they can take all that with them. And so those are not just things that help the veterans in our program, but those are things that help the veterans when they move into housing to furnish their new home. And then we get more supplies to help the next person who comes in after them.
Well, we'll certainly share that information on the screen with our viewers, so hopefully folks will be in touch and will take the time to learn how they can support this amazing work that you're all doing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing on behalf of veterans. I know as a veteran myself, and you feel this too, I'm sure, it hurts to see people experiencing homelessness, but certainly knowing that person volunteered to wear the uniform and go into service, and in many cases go into combat on behalf of our nation. It's tough to know that they're experiencing hard times. So it's good to know that there are people like you and organizations like Catholic Charities and Manna House who are there to help them. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it, and everyone can do a little bit to help out. And thank you for sharing the work that we do and the experiences of the veterans that we're serving, because that also helps get them more support to get back on their feet sooner.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you to Cole and everyone at Catholic Charities of Arizona for everything they do for veterans in our community. Learn how you can support this effort at manahouseaz.org. Did you know that entrance fees as well as standard amenity recreation fees at national parks and forests are waived for current military service members and their dependents, and for veterans and Gold Star families? This benefit provides the military community with free access to approximately 2,000 public locations spread out across more than 400 million acres of public lands, which host activities to fit any lifestyle from serene to high octane, including hiking, fishing, paddling, biking, hunting, stargazing, camping, and much more. Learn how you could take advantage of this benefit at blogs.va.gov, search National Parks. Thank you for watching or listening to Veterans AZ. If you enjoyed it, share it with friends and family. You can find past episodes and other veterans resources and information at veteransaz.org.